This was supposed to answer a simple question: can a late Soviet piston fighter survive against every American jet in IL-2 Korea when all of them are flown by ace AIs? The F-80 trapped me in a 30-minute fight I eventually abandoned. Then I removed most of the LA's fuel, did exactly what I thought I should never do against a jet, and shot down 2 of them. The F-84 was supposed to be faster. The Sabre was supposed to be the final boss. Instead, the experiment gradually stopped being about whether the LA could beat them and become a test of whether the jets could survive themselves. One completely inappropriate opponent eventually gave me the fight I had expected. But before that, this video is sponsored by Pimax. Full transparency, all the IL-2 Korea gameplay in this video was recorded with my normal Trek IR setup. I haven't used the Crystal Super, so this is not a hands-on review. The product information comes from Pimax. The Crystal Super is a high-end PC VR headset built for demanding simulation games. That's 3840 by 3840 pixels per eye. The optical engine is swappable, with options trading pixel density against horizontal field of view, from 106 degrees on the 57 ppd module to 140 degrees on the ultra-wide. For flight simulators, those priorities make sense. Extra clarity should help with small cockpit instruments, distant aircraft and terrain detail, while a wider field of view should make the cockpit and the world around you feel more natural. You can choose which balance matters more to you. Pimax says its current promotion includes Pimax Play EVO, free with a headset purchase. You'll find the track linked in the description, and code DEFENSIVE gives you 2% off a Pimax headset. This is an affiliate link, by the way, so I may receive commission from qualifying purchases. Thank you Pimax for sponsoring the video. Now, the setup was deliberately simple. One LA-11 against one jet, beginning head-on at the same altitude and 2 kilometers apart. Every opponent was an ace. Both aircraft initially carried full internal fuel with no external tanks, because I did not want to handicap the AI. I also selected heavy clouds, strong precipitation and strong haze, because I think that makes a better video. The F-80C Shooting Star was first. I began with everything that seemed sensible against a jet. I avoided the head-on, watched each attack and turned inside its dives. I dragged the fight toward the deck, hoping to make its attacks increasingly awkward or tempt it into committing to a turn. Nothing worked. Whenever the F-80 lost energy, it simply climbed away again. The clouds occasionally swallowed it completely, and once I reached the deck, there was no altitude left to exchange for speed for me. If I kept turning, I remained trapped beneath it. If I flew straight to accelerate, I gave it a firing solution. Eventually, I was flying low enough that I was genuinely hoping it would crash. Maneuver kill still counts, right? It didn't. The fight lasted almost 30 minutes. I landed a few desperate shots and apparently damaged an electrical component or something, but nothing decisive. In the end, frustration won and I stopped the mission. The F-80 did not kill me, I simply couldn't be bothered to continue the stalemate. There was one useful discovery though. After half an hour, the LA had consumed less than 10% of its enormous fuel supply. Carrying all of it made no sense for a short duel, so I reduced the LA to 40% while leaving the F-80 full and every other condition unchanged. The LA remained at 40% for every fight after this, while every jet kept its full internal fuel load. Then I did exactly what I thought I shouldn't do. I pitched up after the jet. We both reached the top with almost no speed, but instead of using its altitude to dive away, accelerate and rebuild separation, the F-80 descended only as far as my level and began turning while it was still slow. The lighter LA recovered quickly enough to remain behind it. For the first time I could keep my guns on the jet, and yeah, I just shot it down. I celebrated this tactical breakthrough by flying directly into the wreckage. That left the counter result at 2 kills from 3 attempts. Comparing the footage showed that the F-80 hadn't changed. At fuel, the same opportunity had appeared to me, but the heavier LA couldn't regain enough speed to follow it. The jet wasn't flying differently, my LA was. Before moving on, A quick shameless request, if you appreciate control tests like this, consider subscribing and tell me which matchup I should try next. That tells me these videos are worth making, and the more interest this one receives, the better chance these AI problems have of reaching the people who can actually fix them. Right, was the F-80 an isolated case, or would a faster jet fall into the same trap? The F-84E Thunderjet's listed maximum speed was higher than the F-80's with 60 km per hour or something, but its listed climb rate was lower, and I'm pretty sure the accelerate is also lower. And when I flew it myself, its acceleration felt sluggish. I expected it to be difficult to catch while fast and vulnerable only after wasting its energy. The first attempt barely qualified as a fight. At the merge, the F-84 simply flew past me without firing or making any meaningful defensive moves. It presented such an easy crossing shot that I destroyed it immediately. That told me almost nothing, so whenever the same opportunity appeared again, I deliberately held my fire and allowed the jet to make the first real move. Unfortunately, its preferred move was to become extremely slow. Twice the F-84 pitched upward while I was already close enough to follow. It had almost no speed left at the top, and both times it gave me an easy firing solution. Two more F-84s were destroyed in almost the same way. The fourth may have crashed after I damaged it, so that result was inconclusive. For the final attempt, I removed myself from the equation. I refused another free shot, let the jet extend an almost 3 kilometers and turned gently to preserve my energy. I was at 75% throttle, by the way, without using emergency power. So yeah, that's unheard of after a merge. Oh boy, the F-84 still pitched up, obviously, became so slow that I began catching it, and then entered an almost vertical dive. I never fired, it deployed its air brakes and started pulling, but too late and too gently. It hit the ground completely untouched. Across 5 attempts, every F-84 was lost. 3 to my guns, one after possible damage and another one entirely by itself. I hadn't suddenly become an ace, at times it felt more like hunting bombers than fighting jets. Now, the F-86A-5, the final boss, in theory. Surely the Sabre would restore some dignity to the experiment, right? It was considerably faster, climbed far better, and should have been the most dangerous American opponent by a comfortable margin. The first Sabre pitched up, dove toward the ground and crashed after a few possible hits. I'm pretty sure I hit it a couple of times. The game gave me the kill, so I couldn't separate my damage from the result. The second removed that uncertainty. It repeated the aggressive climb, rolled over into another steep dive and hit the terrain. It's because I couldn't hit him, by the way. I tried, but I missed all my shots. Anyway, this time I received no kill credit because I had never touched it. And the third Sabre finally recovered. For a moment I thought we had made progress. Then it climbed again. I was already above it, flying comparatively straight and building speed. The Sabre was below me and slow after recovering from its dive, yet it climbed directly toward an opponent holding both the attitude advantage and energy advantage. I simply dropped behind it and fired. I was handed this kill. I mean, I didn't do much. At this point I was no longer testing whether the LA could beat the jets. I was testing whether the jets could survive themselves, as I said in the intro. The replays made the failure more frustrating because the AI wasn't doing nothing. Near the top of the maneuver, it used flaps. During the dive, it deployed its air brakes and eventually began pulling. The sequence was recognizable, its timing was catastrophic. I couldn't prove whether compression contributed to the crashes. I hadn't recreated the exact dive while controlling either American jet, but even if the controls would become heavy, that only explained the failed recovery, not the decision to continue until there was no altitude left. The AI consistently began pulling too low, too late, and with nowhere near enough urgency. So after my second attempt, I spent some time performing aerobatics in the LA, entered the dive, almost vertical dive, but I recovered so easily. It's I don't know, it's just instinct. You pull up when you think you don't have enough room left. So that wasn't a direct test of the Sabre's flight model, it was a reminder of the basic judgment missing from these attacks. Recovery has to begin while recovery is still possible. Flying these machines remains fantastic in this game. Meeting an opponent is where the experience falls apart sometimes. And one final, completely inappropriate opponent. The original challenge covered every American jet, but after watching the F-84 and the Sabre repeatedly fail, I wanted one final control. So I placed an Ace MiG-15Bis in front of the LA-11 under the same conditions. The MiG began by doing exactly what the others had done. It pitched up and climbed. The difference was that it entered the climb with far more speed. It could continue upward for much longer, opening an enormous vertical gap before rolling over and diving. And unlike the F-84 and the Sabre, it recovered from the dive and climbed again. I couldn't follow it into the vertical, and at one point it passed like a missile and nearly caught me during another attack. Eventually I descended to the deck to deny those steep attacks. The fight continued for more than 10 minutes before I landed the fortunate snapshot. Something broke, the game awarded me the kill and the MiG went down. So the pattern wasn't exclusive to the American aircraft. The MiG used its acceleration and vertical performance to keep the fight alive and force me to adapt. For the first time since the F-80, I felt as though I was actually fighting a jet. That contrast creates an uncomfortable possibility. It almost behaves as though this routine was designed around the MiG and then reused across all the other jets. Obviously, I cannot know whether that is how the AI was developed, but the F-84 and Sabre repeatedly follow the same sequence into situations they cannot survive. So, the conclusion, what can I say? Can a propeller fighter defeat IL-2 Korea's ace jets? Under these conditions, apparently yes, but the results say considerably more about the AI than the LA-11. The F-80 produced a long stalemate until reduced fuel allowed me to exploit its repeatable low energy turn. The F-84 and Sabre repeatedly surrendered their advantage and ran out of altitude. Only the MiG converted the same vertical tendencies into a convincing fight. These were individual duels in one controlled setup, not a complete study of every AI behavior. But the repeated crashes were not isolated accidents. Ace pilots recognized the danger, deployed the appropriate systems, and still reacted too late to survive. IL-2 Korea contains beautiful aircraft that are genuinely enjoyable to fly. I only wish its AI could keep them alive long enough to show what they can really do. These one-on-one fights clearly reveal behaviors that disappear inside larger missions. So I may have to test this properly in a future video. Until then, see ya.